Taking part in a multi-city protest today. Hear what they want changed coming up.
A change of plea from a former Teacher of the Year accused of sexual misconduct with 2 minors.
After several delays, the man convicted of killing a Cathedral Catholic teacher is back in court once again for sentencing.
After a string of fires in San Diego, police say they now know who's responsible for some of them. Details coming up.
Local bakeries and breakfast spots are scrambling to keep up with the soaring egg prices.
Celebrating the impact of civil rights icon Rosa Parks right here at Mesa College.
When Ben Colwell was a baby, he fell into a pool. 64 years later, he meets the San Diego mom who saved his life.
CBS 8 News Live at 6 starts right now.
We begin tonight with San Diegans joining demonstrators from coast to coast as people in all 50 states gather to protest against many of President Trump's recent policies and executive orders. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
I'm Marcella Lee. Protesters started gathering in downtown San Diego just hours ago. That's where CBS 8's Alex Cheney joins us live with how things are looking tonight and some of the complaints he's been hearing. Alex?
Yeah, Carlo and Marcella, the protest continues tonight. This is 50 states, 50 protests, one day. Things started about 3 o'clock earlier this afternoon, and it continues tonight. Lots of signs out there, and lots of people feeling really strongly about current and recent changes by the Trump administration in terms of anti-immigration policies and certain executive orders. Here's what they had to say. Demonstrators gathered today at the Edward J. Schwartz Courthouse building in downtown San Diego.
Don't be the last one they come for.
Protesters targeted President Donald Trump and Elon Musk for what they say is destroying the Constitution with recent policy changes.
I was really apparently naive and thought that the planet mattered, thought that caring about people mattered, and it's super disheartening.
One woman whose sister works in the federal government says she was one of those offered a buyout for her job and is concerned about her future.
These people are giving their lives and dedicating their entire careers to serving their country, and for them to be thrown out like trash is offensive.
Others are protesting recent changes at the U.S.-Mexico border, saying the administration is creating fear for those just trying to feed their families.
What are they thinking by doing this? We have their support. We need their support to come out here and work. And yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous right now.
Protesters condemned Donald Trump's recent executive orders.
This man can't be an example for future generations. He can't be an example for the kids. Nobody. This is a horrible person who's doing disastrous things.
Shock, anger, confusion. Those are just some of the words I would use to describe the people that I talked to today, what they told me, how they're feeling right now, and the reason for their motivation to come out here and to protest and to demonstrate with everybody else. I did speak with some of the organizers. They told me they have a few more events coming up in the coming days, on Friday and also on Saturday. But as you can see, people are still out here this evening and more than likely will be here for a little while longer. Reporting here live, I'm Alex Cheney, CBS 8.
Thanks, Alex. All right, San Diego could see showers in the coming days.
And we need the rain. Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis joining us early with a first look at what we can expect and when. Carlene?
I wish it was a lot more,
okay,
but at least it's something.
We'll take something.
Exactly. Most of the county is going to be really light, a few hundredths of an inch of moisture because we are going to be the tail end of a storm system that is moving through. Now, we did have the first weakening atmospheric river that moved through last night all the way through this morning. You saw cloud cover, and then it was a beautiful day once that moisture lifted out, but we are seeing some clouds starting to move in from our Mount Soledad cam as we gear up for tonight. So the best way that I can describe this, it's an area of low pressure that is tapping into an atmospheric river. You're seeing a lot more of that moisture across Northern California. So as mentioned, the best way I can describe it is a rag. You have a rag. Initially, when you dunk it in water, it's super saturated. That's exactly what happened north of us. That's why they had a lot of that heavier rainfall. Once you start to wring it out, you start to see a lot less moisture, and that's exactly what we're going to be dealing with in our forecast. So that offers up a chance for some light moisture in the forecast. We are not talking about heavy rainfall by any means. Now, we do have that second weakening atmospheric river that's going to get closer towards us. And so as that happens, it brings in those chances as soon as tomorrow morning, and then also looking at chances lingering all the way through Friday. But as mentioned, we're not talking about high totals, but it's nice to get something. So we'll go ahead and take a look at all those details coming up. Marcella.
And remember, for the latest weather conditions and alerts on the go, you can download our free CBS 8 app from Google Play or the Apple App Store.
A National City woman who was once honored as Teacher of the Year is pleading guilty to 4 charges of sexual misconduct with 2 minors. Jacqueline Ma, who taught at Lincoln Acres Elementary School, was arrested back in March of 2023. The victims were under 14 years of age at the time. At a hearing today, Ma changed her plea to guilty to avoid trial. She faces 30 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Sentencing is set for May 9th. Meantime, sentencing for Jesse Alvarez, a man convicted of murdering a Cathedral Catholic high school teacher back in 2021, finally went forward today after more than half a dozen delays. CBS 8's Kelly Hessedall was in the courtroom as Alvarez learned his fate.
That's right, and this was a long road to get here. The courtroom was packed. There were 6 deputies inside the courtroom. 3 of them were surrounding the defendant, Jesse Alvarez. And I can tell you, I have never seen a defendant in the state that he was here today. Go ahead and take a look at some video from inside the courtroom. Alvarez was in a wheelchair. He was lying with his face down on the table. You could see a large red bump on his forehead. His face was swollen. His eyes were closed. His defense attorney told the judge this is all the result of the injury he suffered yesterday at court, which it sounds like he freaked out in front of the deputies and fell and hit his head. Now, he said his client has been blacking out. He's in and out of consciousness. But ultimately, the judge said the sheriff's department brought him here. They thought he was in good enough shape to be here. We've delayed this 6 times already. It is time to move forward. Now, Alvarez was convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend's fiance, Mario Fierro, out of jealousy. We heard from that ex today, Amy Gambara. She gave her victim impact statement remotely, and you could hear the pain in her voice. Take a listen.
One moment, Mario and I were planning our wedding. Then the next moment, our loved ones were planning his funeral. None of our loved ones expected this to happen, nor do we want to be at this sentencing today. Mario's confidence and faith were contagious, and he could light up a room with his energetic spirit. That's what I loved about him. I felt secure in Mario's love for me and had the gift of knowing his love every day.
And we also heard from the victim's sister, who talked about how losing Mario devastated their family and how much they miss him. Now, Alvarez's defense attorney leaned over and asked him at one point if he had anything to say, if he wanted to address the court, but he did not respond. And the judge sentenced him to 25 years to life, plus life in prison without the possibility of parole. So Alvarez will never be a free man. The judge said, you're a cold-blooded killer, and had this happened 20 years ago, you probably would have been given the death penalty. Kelly Hessedall, CBS 8.
Thank you, Kelly. A number of fires broke out across the city of San Diego last month, and tonight investigators say they know who is to blame for some of them.
CBS 8's Shannon Handy has more details, including what a legal expert has to say about how difficult it is to prove arson cases.
Some of those fires broke out in homeless encampments and terrified people who live nearby. So far, 3 people have been arrested, but the Metro Arson Strike Team is requesting a 4th person be charged. Those fires burned here in Mission Valley downtown in Rancho Bernardo. On January 22nd, a brush fire broke out in Rancho Bernardo, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate as flames raced towards their homes. 66-year-old Joseph O'Connor, who was injured in the blaze, faces a felony charge of recklessly causing a fire. Investigators believe he may have inadvertently started it while cooking. Meantime, San Diego police have arrested 31-year-old Shanisha Smith for starting a fire along San Diego Mission Road on January 23rd. 2 others, 47-year-old Ricardo Agras and 44-year-old Jerry Sainfansiri, were booked on arson charges related to smaller fires in the downtown area.
As a former felony prosecutor, I've prosecuted multiple arson cases. I've also defended them as a criminal defense attorney, and they can be tricky for a number of reasons.
Legal expert Eric Faddis says, for starters, in the case of arson, it can be difficult to prove intent.
Under California law, you usually have to prove that the arson was willful and malicious. So you have have to get inside the alleged arsonist's head. On top of that, this isn't something that happens in front of a big group of people. This is something that happens in secret. So there aren't a ton of witnesses.
And the evidence needed may have burned. What about restitution for the money spent on fire personnel as well as the damage itself?
The resources used do not necessarily factor into the degree of the charge. They can factor into the legal consequences through what's called restitution. So an individual who causes all of this damage may be on the hook.
But Faddis warns oftentimes that money is never paid.
Even if there's a judgment against them for $1 million, that doesn't mean that they have those assets to repay the state or individual property owners.
He says years-long prison sentences are usually reserved for those found guilty of arson in cases that cause mass destruction, great bodily injury, or death. And a person's mental state will also be a factor in determining punishment. As for these recent arrests, no trial dates have been set. Additional fires are still under investigation, including one that broke out on Friars Road near Fashion Valley Mall. The cause of the Gilman fire in La Jolla has been determined as unknown. Shannon Handy, CBS 8.
Thanks, Shannon. Right now, officials are counting signatures for a petition to secede La Jolla from the city of San Diego. The San Diego Local Area Formation Commission is counting the petition from the Association for the City of La Jolla. The association says they have 8,000 signatures. They need 6,800 valid signatures from La Jolla voters. So if enough of them are valid, the commission will hire a consultant to analyze the cost of seceding from the city. Then the city of San Diego and La Jolla will negotiate any potential payments and services. That deal will then go back to the commission for final approval. After that, LA La Jolla and the city of San Diego would vote on the ballot in 2026.
Well, we're learning about a new strain of bird flu. That's still ahead.
Plus, call it an economic crisis, how some kitchens here in San Diego are getting by with rising egg prices.
And as Southern California braces for rain, we'll show you efforts to prevent mudslides in recent wildfire burn areas after this.